Derek Scarver, and this is a tutorial on how to drive an automatic car. Now, before you even get into driving the car itself, there are a few things you got to ask yourself before you can get behind the wheel. The first thing is, am I old enough? In the state of California, in which this tutorial will be the main topic of, you have to be 15 and a half to obtain a permit. With that permit, you have to complete behind the wheel training. You have to obtain that permit for at least 6 months, and you need 6 hours of behind the wheel practice with an instructor while you have your permit, which is just driver school, as what teenagers know it as. And once that's completed, you can go to the DMV, and when you pass your driver's test, you now can operate an automatic vehicle. Now that you have your license, you want to go over the steps of what you do when you get in the car. When you get in the car, the first thing you should do is keep your foot on the brake pedal, and that's just for safety precautions to keep the car from rolling or whatever's going on while you're in the car. You want to adjust the mirrors to make sure you can see safely around the entire car before you pull off, and then you want to start the car. And to start the car, you have a key. A lot of cars nowadays are push to start. For the push to start, the keys in the vicinity of the car, you put your foot on the brake and then just press the button to start the car. If you still have a car that uses a actual key that you put in the ignition, you put the key in the ignition, turn it to the right, you'll hear the engine turn and let go, the car's on. And next thing you want to do is shift the lever to the D spot where for drive. It's the Prindle, as people know, PRNDL. You want to move the Prindle stick down to D for drive. And when it says right here on the slide to keep your hands on the wheel at the 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock position, I have a picture on the slide that is a perfect example of that. You want to think of the steering wheel as a clock. You want to think of where 10 o'clock would be, where the 10 on the clock would be, and where the 2 on the clock would be. You want to have your right hand where the 2 on the clock would be, and your left hand where the 10 on the clock would be, or at least somewhere in the vicinity. I know people have longer arms, shorter arms. You want to be comfortable but also safe at the same time. And once you're at that step, it's pretty much time to go. You don't just want to floor it like we've all seen the SpongeBob episode where he gets in the car with Mrs. Puff and he just floors it. You actually want to lightly press the gas pedal, depending on where you are. If you're pulling out of your drive or whatever, you want to lightly press the gas pedal and gradually increase speed. Now for braking. As far as braking, since you've already found the gas pedal, the brake pedal is the normally the fatter pedal to the left of the gas pedal. Um, the one thing you always want to be cognizant of when you are driving is you want to have a 2 to 3 car length gap from the car in front of you. So you're not just braking hard every time. And that is for many reasons. The car in front of you could have to stop really quick on the dime. It could be something going across the street, a distraction, or whatever the case is. You don't want to cause a pile up by riding the car in front of you. So you want to be at least 2 to 3 car lengths from the car in front of you to give enough time to stop, which is what I was doing some research on this. A lot of other websites were saying 3 second gap, which is the same thing as a 2 to 3 car lengths gap. And when you stop, you don't want to press the brake too hard because the car is just going to come to just a fast stop, tire screech, and then if you press the brake too hard, you're you can throw off other drivers around you as well. You want to come to a gradual stop, like you're at a red light. You want to slowly press the brake down, and if you're 2 to 3 car lengths away, you will have more than enough time to come to a nice, smooth, gradual stop. You want the brake to be nice and smooth. Now, as far as reversing, um, you want to look back on your Prindle, the park, reverse, neutral, drive, and you want to move the knob to the R for reverse. When you do this, you always want to have your foot on the brake pedal. Um, when I have turn your head around and assess before you reverse, The picture on the slide is perfect. Everybody that has driven a car most likely does the same thing that the lady is doing in the picture when they reverse. It's probably the universally most comfortable position when reversing. You want to look in your rearview mirror, and you also want to how she has her hand. She's nice and comfortable. She's turning around, assessing the area behind her before she backs up. You never know what can be behind you, and sometimes when you drive, things just creep up on you at the last second. Um, the car naturally reverses by itself when you have it in R. You don't need to press the gas pedal to reverse fast. Once you take your foot off the brake or slightly move it up off the brake, the car will begin to reverse on its own. And if you're in an area like a parking lot or just backing out of your driveway, that's more than enough speed to be able to reverse. Now, as far as turning, um, we're going to start with just changing lanes first. If you're driving on the road, you want to change the lane. Your turn signal is normally on the left side, one of the knobs on the left side of your steering wheel. You always want to use your turn signal. In fact, it's against the law not to use your turn signal. Using your turn signal does a lot of things. Using your turn signal notifies the drivers around you that you plan to turn. So they can decrease their speed, increase their speed, give you enough space to get into that lane. If you don't use it, then a car can be speeding up to try and get in front of somebody, whatever the case may be, and then you just turn and then there's an accident and now you have to sit on the side of the road and it's just a whole lot more headaches to go through if you rather than just using your turn signal and getting out the way. Now at your turn signal, you want to lift the lever up to indicate a right turn or lift the lever down to indicate a left turn. And before you turn, if you're just on the road, you want to look at your mirrors. You always want to look at your mirrors and assess the area around you. And then once you feel that it is safe to turn or switch lanes, then you switch that lane. One thing you have to remember is that there's a blind spot in the car. In a car, there's a one spot. If a car, there's one spot that the mirrors cannot see, which is why you don't only want to look through your mirrors, you also want to turn your head really fast just to make sure there's not a car in a blind spot. For example, if I'm going to make a left hand turn, I push my knob down to indicate that I want to turn left, look in my mirrors. If I don't see a car, I turn my head and just to double check, look at your mirrors, turn your head again. Because an accident in this scenario is not good. Um, as far as turning left in an intersection, um, if the light is already green and you're turning and you're coming up to an intersection to turn, let's say, just for example, turn right, just to go with the image I have here on the slide. Um, you want to keep your foot hovered over the brake. You never really want to turn too many times while you're pressing down the gas because that's just dangerous. And while turning while increasing speed, it can cause a burnout or the car could possibly flip over depending how fast you're going. Um, you most likely are going the speed limit if you're coming up to a green light, so you're going fast enough. So have your foot hovered over the brake just in case. Maybe even press down on the brake a little bit to have a nice, safe, slow turn. And you want to use hand over hand steering when turning at an intersection. Hand over hand steering, this image I have is the perfect example of hand over hand steering. In the first image, they're in the 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock position. And when you want to turn, you see number 2 and number 3. They're turning with both hands and then letting go with the right hand and putting the right hand over the left hand in number 4 and then moving the left hand and putting it back up in the right position to turn. That's hand over hand steering. You don't want to just turn with both hands because it's going to be pretty difficult to bring both hands back and the car is not going to turn completely. Lastly is headlights. Your headlights, it's never a bad time to have your headlights on, honestly. But they must always be on in the state of California when it is dark, raining, snowing, hailing, or foggy for the most part. Um, as far as the location of the headlights, the image I have here is what a lot of newer cars headlights look like as far as the knob. The zero on the far left means your lights are not on, and then if you want to turn it, you have your high beam indicator and all that. And some headlights are levers that you would switch, turn around. It all depends on the car to find where your headlights are located. As far as high beams, high beams are really beneficial when, let's say, you're driving 3 a.m. and it's just pitch black outside, not too many cars on the road. Turn your high beams on so you can have a better sight of the road. But you always want to be careful if other drivers are around you and your high beams are on. It's really disrespectful to have high beams on and really dangerous if a car is coming in your direction, you have your high beams on, it actually blinds the driver. Even if you're driving behind somebody with the high beams on, it blinds the driver in front of you, which is extremely dangerous. That is just a quick tutorial on how to drive an automatic car. I hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you.